Greetings, I'm Rose. Welcome back to my sewing cave. This is the final video of the 4-part video series where we create a 1970s Prairie inspired dress. I am wearing the Vanessa Pouzet Wanted tee, and I've added the sleeves from the Forget Me Not Vera top. It's a free pattern, it's got fantastic sleeves. So today we will be cutting the strips for the tiered skirt, gathering, hemming, installing the zipper, and then we are done. This video series was divided into 4 parts. It was my first sew along. So if you'd rather see one long video of building a project, no longer than maybe an hour or 2, let me know. But that's kind of a lot to sit through. So we'll get started with cutting the fabric and see in a bit. When you last saw me, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited to try out new techniques. I'd watched all the YouTube videos on how to use the ruffler / gathering foot. I knew it all. And what happened? It completely messed up. I have no idea what happened. I think both layers were gathering, maybe I had the tension wrong, and both of the layers were gathering together and gathering in the middle. So I tried a new technique using the ruffler foot on my serger. It was not successful. I needed to find my center, and then I unpicked everything. So here is where we are now. I have gathered the skirt to the bodice. If you want the same length, go 14 inches down for your first tier, and it is 1.75 the width of your waist around. The second tier is 8.5 inches wide, and it is 2.5 times the width of my waist. So in this case, it's 95 inches. I've kind of rounded up just to make the math a little bit easier for you. And then the bottom tier is 5.25 because that's all I could cut. So it is the same length as the one on top. Now I can give you these precise measurements because I did the gathering and stitch method using my sewing machine instead of using that failed gathering ruffling foot. Now if I would have used the gathering ruffling, it's not precise because then there's 2 layers that get fed at the same time and the serger gathers that bottom layer. And so it's not precise. Like, you will not know the exact tension of your machine to feed it through to do the kind of gathering you want to do. So you're welcome to use the ruffler foot, and if you are successful, good on you. And if you've got some great maybe YouTube or techniques, put them down in the comments. I need all the help I can get. But in the meantime, this worked. And these measurements will work for you should you want to use the, pulling the string from the sewing machine method. On this version, it is 4.5 inches too long for me because I wear huge platforms. There are 5 tiers. The first tier is 18 inches by 66, which is equivalent to 1.75 the measurement of the base of the bodice. This is the same measurement, the same ratio I used for the one I'm making now. The second tier is 10.5 inches, and it is 95 inches around, which is about 2.5 times the bodice base, the same ratio that I've used for the current one. On the bottom tier here, it is 4.5 inches. So this is the third tier, is 4.5 inches by 95. So again, 2.5 ratio to the bodice base. The fifth tier here is 3.75 of the original bodice. So in this instance, it's 120 inches. And that is the same length as the last tier, which is 4.5 inches by 120. I am almost 5'10". I do not need this bottom tier. So for you, you could go with the 4 tiers. This fourth tier is 12.5 inches. You could follow the same length as the second tier is 10.5, and that would lift it in another 2 inches. So you would be looking at what would probably work for someone who's 5'7". And you can adjust the ratios of the rest of the skirt panels to fit your height and your preference. I am very happy with the way this is turning out. So the only thing that's left now is to add the trim and to add the zipper. So let's play with our trims a little bit. So the bottom tier, I have already hemmed, just to make it easier because I know that I'm going to be adding trim to the bottom of this. So I have gone through and re-rated my grandmother's stash. I found this and I have almost the perfect amount. I think I'll have like 5 to 7 inches after it's done. And this matches very similar to the color of the lace I've used in the top part. So what I'm thinking about doing is, even though most Gunne Sax Prairie dresses aren't gathered, I want to use what I have. And this has a slight gather to it, but I think it'll work just fine. And so I'm going to add this to the bottom of my skirt. And then I am debating either adding this ribbon on top or adding the ribbon and the lace to this layer. I think I'm just going to, add one layer of trim at a time and see how I like it before I go overboard. And then I'll come back and show you my final decisions. So I have stitched the lace to the hem, and just some pointers, what I've seen when I was stitching this up, you may need to lengthen your stitch length. I moved to like a 3.25. My feed dogs were having a hard time moving this lace across, and I'm stitching pretty close to the edge. As you see here, I have overlapped my lace about 1 inch. So there is 1 inch that I folded over, and then it's overlapped by 1 inch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some cream thread and just do some quick hand stitches on both sides. I could do this on a machine, probably with a little bit of a bigger zigzag, but I don't want to change my thread again because I'll probably have to change it again to stitch on the other ribbon. So that's what I'm going to do next. And then I will sew on the ribbon and the lace to this layer. I have decided not to add decorations to the top of the bottom tier. I looked through some examples on Pinterest, and most dresses that end with lace do not have ribbon on the top or on top of the lace. And then I have decided that in between the first and second tier, I have just added the lace that is also on the bodice. And then I have top stitched and applied some of the purple ribbon that matches the purple ribbon that was added to the waistband and also to the bodice. So let's go to the inside of our bodice. I cut a waistband facing, and this is a 3-inch wide strip, just like our waistband. And I have just cut it the width of the fabric. So this is about 42 to 44. My bodice base measurement is 37.5 because it's based on my natural waist plus some ease. So I'm going to stitch this facing onto the bottom of this. And so then that way when it's stitched up, it'll enclose this bulk. And I will kind of throw a warning out here. We have all of this gathering and this waistband that has been faced. There's a lot of bulk here. I mean, there's not much, but there's enough. So just be wary, especially if you're going to be using something that's a little bit more flimsy for the waistband facing. Make sure that the layers you're stitching together are supposed to be getting stitched together, that we don't have, other pieces of fabric bunched under, because you're going to have a little bit difficulty by feel making sure that you've got the right layers. So just pin, take your time sewing, and you shouldn't have a problem. So yay me, my own advice actually worked. I didn't get any of the layers caught up in this seam. So I'm going to trim down the bulk on the bottom of this, and then I will be pressing this up, and then I will be folding over the top edge and pinning it in place right next to the seam line, which you cannot see because I changed the thread to match the fabric. I will be pinning this in place and then just doing some whip stitches on the inside. And I am leaving the ends open so I can attach the zipper. And then once the zipper is attached, I will be hand stitching the rest of this facing around the zipper. So I've hand stitched the waistband facing in place, left the flaps open, and I'm going to install the zipper. So I had stitched up the back seam just enough to capture all of the different tiers. So when I sewed the trim on, I wouldn't have to worry about the seam being open. And I am using a 14-inch zipper. My last one I used a 9 and that was not enough. I have to shimmy to get it over my chest. I'm planning on hooks and eyes at the top. I'm going to mark from a 1/2 inch from the top of the bodice. And that's all going to be basted close until this point. Now that's the metal bracket at the base of the zipper. So I know I need to have the permanent stitching from this point down. I have basted the center back seam, matching all of these seam lines. And then I have permanent stitched from that mark down. I will pin this with the tab facing down all the way. And then after I'm done pinning, I hand baste so that I can remove the pins. So when I sew in the zipper, I'm not having to dodge the pins. It's just going to be held in place by my hand stitching. Okay, so I have installed the zipper and I've removed most of my basting stitches. You can see they're kind of all over the place. I have already tried this on and I'm super excited. It's almost done. I'm not going to rush. So the only thing left is hand stitching the hook and eye, hand stitching the top facing in the back, and then finishing up the waistband. And then it's all done. It's done. I am really happy with the way it turned out. It is completely seasonally inappropriate, but I love it. We could all use a little pick-me-up in 2020. Likes and dislikes. I did try it on with my bra straps. It's not quite right. I probably am wearing it with the wrong bra, so I went braless. The panel is working out perfectly. This one fits a little bit looser than the first one, which is probably maker error. I think I had kind of twisted some of the panels around in the back, but it's fine. I love the lace. I love the ribbon. I think it's perfect. Thank you for joining me in this sew along. This is the first sew along I've done. I will appreciate any kind of feedbacks or comments if you'd like it to be all in one long video. So that'd be about 45 minutes to an hour, or I can do a kind of broken apart in these 15-20 minute segments. Let me know what you prefer. I will be doing more like pattern reviews. I'll be doing videos inspired by different TV shows and movies, new and old. I also do some cosplay, so if we ever have cons again, you'll be joining me when I make my next builds. Thank you for joining me in my tiny corner of the internet. I hope to see you soon. Bye.